When I look out my window, I see some trees, but really what I see is buildings and buildings. And not only buildings, on my block, we're right now 4-floor buildings. They're gonna tear down buildings and build 19-floor towers. I won't see anything but buildings. The skylight maybe a drop. And here, just look around, the beauty. Hashem gave this to us. And just because I wear a hat and jacket, just because I grew up this way, doesn't mean that I shouldn't have this great gift. It was given to all of Am Yisrael.
What is this place?
We may forget that the war is not only in Gaza, the war is all over Eretz Yisrael. It's for every inch of land. What this tractor over here is doing, and what a few Kli Avodah have been doing right beforehand, is getting this land ready. So another house, more mezuzahs, more Torah, more little kids go through these uncharted lands that for so many years cried out for Am Yisrael to return, and we're making this true returning to another piece of Eretz Yisrael.
What's the pricing of all this?
The pricing of all this, listen, if I tell you how low it is, I think everybody will be running down from all over Israel. So I'm not going to give you the price. Whatever you think, it's lower than that.
I'll have to put like numbers on the screen or something. Maybe you can give us a little tour of the place here.
Sure, the tractor now, he just finished up here, straightening the land, preparing it, putting on the hard rock, and in the next few days, we're going to have a contractor come here. He's going to order the concrete, the walls, the house, and we're going to start building, and this house is going to be up pretty quickly, and then we'll finish up the insides, and we'll finally be able to move in.
What's this here?
So here, as you can see, my neighbor, he started building. He's actually building here with bricks. Maybe in the next few minutes, there's going to be another truck of earth coming here, which the tractor is going to straighten out the land. It'll be easier to build on.
So you're actually going to move here in a few weeks?
It's going to take longer than a week. We're hopefully sometime in the summer, it'll be all ready to move in. And we'll have that moment I've been waiting for so many years, to make Chanukah Bayit on a house in Eretz Yisrael that actually makes a difference. Till now, we've had some challenges. Klal Yisrael has overcome challenges, so Sfat Hashem.
So living the dream is different for everybody, obviously, but you've been planning this and trying for this for a long time.
I was waiting for the opportunity to come. Many things had to happen. As you can see, we're sitting here in a picnic table overlooking some of the most beautiful views. This is the dream come true.
To listen to the full podcast or watch Tribe's new docuseries, The Pioneers, and other untold stories about Israel, you can find us at @TribeJournal on most social media platforms, or log on to tribejournal.org. Don't forget to subscribe and start receiving content that you can trust delivered directly to your inbox. Discover an Israel that the media and algorithms do not want you to see. Thanks for watching.
This is the dream come true. I'm now living in Yerushalayim, in the remote neighborhood. And when I look out my window, I see some trees, but really what I see is buildings and buildings. And not only buildings, on my block, we're right now 4-floor buildings. They're going to tear down buildings and build 19-floor towers. I won't see anything but buildings. The skylight maybe a drop, you know? And here, just look around, the beauty. Hashem gave this to us. And just because I wear a hat and jacket, just because I grew up this way, doesn't mean that I shouldn't have this great gift. It was given to all of Am Yisrael.
How much are those apartments in those 10, 20-story buildings?
I think a bedroom over there will get you here a 200-meter apartment. One bedroom, probably more, but something like that. I don't want to, that's what I'm saying. People are dying, literally. Every day people come collecting money in our Beit Knesset, and I imagine it goes on everywhere, and everywhere in the world, in America, because they've got to pay these insane prices to live in those 19-story towers when they leave the tower, they have, wait a half an hour to get out because all the cars that are, well, once had, 3, 4 apartments became all of a sudden 80 apartment in a building. And for what? So it's beautiful to live in Yerushalayim, but to live in Yerushalayim on top of each other, I want to tell you a story, and this probably says it all. I had a friend, today he actually lives in a yeshuv. He lived in Kiryat Sefer. And it was one Shabbos afternoon, and his brother-in-law came to visit him with his wife and the kids. My friend lived in the 7th floor. So they walked up all those stairs, 7 flights of stairs. They got to the top floor, and they knocked on the door. And then they realized that his apartment is in the next building. It's happened
to all of us. It's happened to all of us.
If this wasn't sad, it would be very funny.
Yeah. And the builders apparently, and the government apparently don't realize that there are questions on the elevator, the Shabbos elevators, like whether or not you can use it, at what age, at what need. But it's definitely not the chatchila that people should be walking up
Forget
20 stories. They may do it in Manhattan, but
forget Shabbos. I'm talking in the middle of the week when I lived in an apartment building, a different apartment building. There was 8 floors. I remember how long we had to wait and the uncomfortableness. We're not supposed to live in the air. They say avira da'ar machim, avira d'eretz Yisrael machim. But I don't think they were speaking about being up in the air. They meant feeling the air, feeling the wind go through you while we sit here on the ground, while we have work on another home and another home, while we get to see the Kedusha. The Kedusha is in the land. The Chachamim of Pam, they said of certain Chachamim, they came to Eretz Yisrael, they left their soles of the shoes with holes in it so they can feel the land of Eretz Yisrael. We should feel it. We should be able to take our children to the backyard to dig and teach them about the digging fruit trees and teach them about the laws of Orla and teach them about all of that. And Shemitah, not just to have some Shemitah fund that we collect once every 7 years and have to look in the vegetable store if it's a Heter Mechir or it's a Chazonish. No, we have to live the land. And this is the place where we can do it. And there are many of these places where we can do it if we choose to do it.
Fair enough. But what would you say to someone who says, okay, well, in the north, you can do all those wonderful things. There's affordable housing. Here we're in Yehuda V'Shomron, Judea, Samaria. And, like you mentioned, the price in comparison to a 1-bedroom apartment. I've spoken to people who off the grid, right? I'm saying that a little bit euphemistically, off the grid, meaning they still have electricity in this now, but it's without the proper documentation, without the proper permits and whatnot. Which is happening tremendously in the Arab population, the Palestinian Authority-run cities throughout Yehuda V'Shomron, that they're just building outward. I think someone said 30% of all of Area C is already lived on by Arab Palestinian Authority developed housing that was never discussed with in fact, most of it is disputed by the Israeli, at least organizations and the courts and whatnot. So people are building houses for 1.4 million shekels, houses, 200 square meter houses in the Shtachim. And like you're saying, 1.4 barely gets you a 1-bedroom in Jerusalem or even in the outskirts of Jerusalem. It's tough to find. It's just that's sort of the layout of the land, pun not intended. So if someone comes along and says, okay, well, you could get like a 2 million shekel nice house in Afula, let's say, or even north of Afula, why do it here and without the grid, without the going through the proper documentation and the procedures?
So,
like, why risk it? Who's paying for your house?
I'm paying for my house.
You have no mortgage.
I have no mortgage.
That must feel pretty good. Having no mortgage. But you're laying out the cash. What happens if it gets torn down?
Sometimes in life, we have to take that risk. But obviously, we went through the experts. We looked in the situation. I can tell you that a few miles from here, there is a community that's been up for many years. That's true. But they're building an exact same status as we are. You have to see the homes there, the people putting into it. It's just beautiful. And people understand. Sometimes you got to make an investment. This is a very solid investment. At least I think so. And it's not just about me. This is about Eretz Yisrael. It's about Am Yisrael's future. If we don't come here to this place today, what's going to be another 10 years? I was just thinking about this. What if our enemies, the whole world came and said, we're going to let you live in Israel in one building? to the sky as high as you want, all the Jews in one place, you have peace. Would we sign on such a thing? Obviously not. We would never trust them. But in the end of the day, our mitzvah to settle Eretz Yisrael, to be part of Eretz Yisrael, can't be done in one place or another place.
Well, I'm going to leave that to the post game, not to interrupt you, but I'm going to leave that to the halachic authorities to look at where we should be focused on. There's obviously a dispute on that, and we're not going to get into that. That's like a whole episode by itself. But, I see you doing something different.
Right.
You're here. You're saying, look, I don't have 3 years, 5 years to go through the permitting process. Anyways, we're losing the land here, right? Anyways, we're losing the land to illegal Palestinian Authority warfare, land warfare, if you will, where they're poaching the Area C that was established by Oslo. It's a risk with that. There's a big risk with that. So tell me, why do you do it? Why is the risk worth it? You put in, let's say, 1 million shekels, or even in your case, it's much less, much less.
I'm not even going to say the numbers, but we're talking about much less.
You're an average in Kolel, and that's just going to be, it's still that's like your average person's loss would be about the same, depending on how much you have in your account, right? So even though it's less, it's still a tremendous risk. Why do you do it?
Well, first of all, the hill right behind me, I was told, I don't know, but the hill right over here, there used to be Arabs that came here, and they would act as if this land was theirs. So in the past few weeks I've been here, and I know the situation is already for a few years. They're Jewish shepherds. Jewish shepherds. Can you believe that? That graze this land over here. You ask why we do this? Because it's not, in the end of the day, all about real estate. And if you want to look just about real estate, then it's obviously this is the best real estate decision I've ever made in my life. But it's not just about that. It's about, sometimes in life, there are things that are more important in life than just real estate. Why we do this over here, why we are taking out of our time to look in a place that nobody has gone before. This is not one of those posters where you see next to my neighborhood, come to Nativot for, cheap housing on paper, buy an apartment for 1.5 million, or in a Fula, or this is something different yet. This is something that I see my children, besides for all the other things we spoke about, that they'll be able to get something that an average person, they'll be building in a Fula or Nativot or wherever else in the periphery wouldn't get. And this is why I think this is an amazing decision to come to places like this.
So you're saying even if you did go north or south, where would you buy a place where you have this as your backyard, basically?
So
that's basically there are thousands of dunim that are surrounding this place. It's beautiful, and you can't really find that in the north or the south too easily.
The truth of the matter is that part of the plan, the long-term plan, the thinking behind this, is that if we are successful in this place and in another place, and in a third and a fourth and a fifth place, in the areas we are now, then a group will get together and they'll push the government a bit, and they will get those places in the north. The Galil is sadly being lost. I think the percentages in parts of the Galil is 70% Arabs. The average age of a Jew is well into the late 40s, meaning if we don't bring in the religious population, if we don't bring in the Haredi world or the Dati world, place is lost. Now, why would somebody want to come?
Explain why you think the religious population as opposed to the irreligious.
So a few years ago,
birth rates.
Besides birth rates, just this, I'll add another thing. A few years ago, when the previous government was around, and they had one of the cabinet meetings to plan and discuss building up new yeshuvim in the Galil and in the Negev for Jews, one of the government's ministers from I guess it was from Lapid's party, he said exactly what it is. What are we wasting our time up north? We don't care to build in north. Build us apartments in Tel Aviv. Sadly, those that have gotten far away from their Torah and become even haters of the Torah, they really don't see Eretz Yisrael more than Nadlan, more than real estate. And if it's a real estate deal, why go up north? Why go south? Stay in the bubble of, the central hub of Tel Aviv and around. And this is exactly, and especially now when we see what's going on with the war, who are we going to bring to the north? Only people that have faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And those are the people, if we gave right now, tomorrow, 10 new yeshuvim to the Haredi Tzibur, and we tell them you can do it, you have a yeshuv of 200, 300, 400, 500 families, they will go running down there. It doesn't matter that this wasn't done before. It doesn't matter that There's threats of missiles and Hezbollah and all kinds of shtuyot. In the end of the day, if you have Emunah in Hashem, you're going to see it in the end of the day as a way. And this is why over here we're making putting all our efforts that we succeed. It's not just about me. It's about where is my neighbors. A few months right after Pesach, I brought my neighbors. We had a whole group over here to plant trees. First time in their life, they had such a great time. They were learning the halachas, and you can't put a grape with wheat and this. Everything was beautiful. In the end of the day, they all went home. They keep on asking me what's going on and why is their house up. They're like Tinok Shanishba, like a child that didn't know Judaism. They didn't know that it's possible. They don't know. They were brought up that to live in a floor -2 in an apartment the size of a parking spot for the first year after marriage, that's all right. But to live here with a half a dunam, 3/4 a dunam, with the views that you see here, with the sunset, with the air, that has nothing to do with me. They don't know about it. And this is exactly why we want them to know about it. In the Midbar, I once heard a great Dvar Torah. This is what I always go through my mind. Everybody had the man. Everybody ate the man. So they asked, how could you do chesed with your neighbor? You can't invite him over to, I made a great steak. He has whatever he wants, he has. I don't remember the Mefarish that said it, but this says it all. He said, they taught them the new taste. They taught them, this is the taste of ice cream. This is a taste of a 7-layer cake. This is a taste of a entrecote steak. And this is what we're trying. We're teaching them that it's possible. It's possible. You can live in such a place. You can enjoy it. Your whole family, your kids, you'll grow up in the Torah way. And you'll even look back and say, I feel so sad for all my neighbors that are still living there, going up and down those stairs, not knowing who is going to fit into the sukkah this year because the balcony is only a certain amount. I hope we're all zoch at least to know that we can do it.
Just to sum it up, you're basically saying that the land out here the air is beautiful. The air is refreshing. How can we live in a machsan? How can we live in these shoeboxes? How can we live in these small apartments in cities when there's just, you can just see this. It's like there's land everywhere, but not a dunam to live on or something. And you're challenging that. So this is almost a form of civil disobedience that costs a heck of a lot more money than like sitting in a highway somewhere. And you're basically moving your entire family to this hill where you're going to try to build a community of other people like yourself, religious-minded folks that want to live out here in the Shtachim. It's a lifestyle, it's an ideology for you, and it's a financial no-brainer for you, apparently.
It's no brainer. They say when they had the cottage cheese and the chad fami, all the Haredim said when they took away the tax from the chad fami, and they said, oh great, they got rid of the tax and the cola. Let us build here, put on as much taxes as you want on chad fami and cola, because the savings you'll have here, you'll be able to fill up for this entire valley with chad fami.
And according to what you're saying, it's interesting because when you look at the Arab communities, they're already benefiting from those savings for a long time now. In fact, I know people that actually shop. They'll go to shop in Arab communities because things are a heck of a lot cheaper there. Much less money to buy your groceries and fix your car and everything like that because of the fact that they're off the grid, so to speak. But there's the other aspect of it as well, right? I mean, off the grid isn't paying taxes. There's danger. You're building a house without the permits. There's the chance that the government will come and rip it down. They're definitely, statistically speaking, I believe it's factual, according to most NGOs that I've heard from, is that most of the Jewish and members of Knesset, most of the Jewish houses are torn down, but the Arabs are allowed to continue to live. Goes through a court process for over 7 years, at which time racist Ottoman era laws are able to protect the non-Jew. Actually, the courts have upheld this, that the non-Jew is actually able to poach the land by keeping it in the courts long enough before the demolition, whereas the Jew doesn't get that protection. So it could be that 5 years from now or 20 years from now, you're going to find not that bulldozer building it, but one from the government coming to tear it down. What's your response to that?
So obviously we made a lot of calculations. We looked into places that have a very strong chance of staying. We slowly started building up. We didn't build overnight, 20 houses. And we actually uh, joined up with the experts in this field, the locals that have been doing this for years. And the chances are, especially now with the government that's in place, it could change. But even if the government changes, things there are places that are less chances of staying, and this place is a higher chance because it is state land. And as opposed to going on private land, we've made sure that we are staying on state land, which is a very important thing, which makes the chances that the government will touch you usually much lower, especially when we're not here to bother anybody. We're just here to live our lives and to build up Eretz Yisrael. And the government knows that. And because they know that, they will prefer us here than people that may make trouble for others. The truth of the matter, this place, when we came, you speak about security. We have an army checkpoint very close. And Baruch Hashem, we give security to the area. It's well lit up. We have the lighting. We feel the people go to sleep here at night. I don't think anybody thought about it than living in remote or living in Kiryat Sefer. I think we feel very secure here.
Yeah, Neve Yaakov, there was a shooting, and Bnei Brak, there was a shooting. It's everywhere.
Today, sadly, I heard there was a terrorist attack in a mall somewhere. I think in the end of the day, they want us all gone. And to use that as an equation, if I make a left or right, let me tell you, when I used to live in Neve Yaakov, so we had to go to the train station, Givat HaChmoshet. There were 2 years where I think there were 5 or 6 Jews that were killed in that train station. Did one person say, I'm not going to work with the train station? One person say, I'm not going to yeshiva, I'm not going to kollel? Nobody. Yet 5 people were killed there. There was a baby, an American baby to a couple that didn't have children for a few years that was killed there. Do people say, let's leave? No. And I don't think that's an equation we have to take.
You're Haredi, you're ultra-Orthodox. It's generally speaking, I mean, you have Beitar elite, you have Kiryat Sefer, you have Matisyahu, Meitzad. There are plenty of Haredi ultra-Orthodox communities that are flourishing on the other side of the Green Line, let's say. What are your neighbors, what's their take on it? Do they know what you're doing, or you're like the guy that they don't really know, that quiet dude in the area that they're like, he kind of keeps to himself a little bit and they don't even know. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So not only do my neighbors know what I'm doing, the Rav, I always speak to him in halacha. We discuss about the trees and the Shemitah, and I show him what's going on and the rules between houses, and I was going back and forth because there's so much halacha here. And in the city, you don't get to even bother learning. Just the other day, we started learning Baba Basra. It speaks about what wall you have to make between 2 properties. We have that here. The Gemara is coming to life. So my neighbors, they're very excited. They always ask me what's going on. Why are they excited? They're not coming here. Not in the next year or 2. They see me as a nachshon, not just me, the people that came here. The first people that went into the water before it split. They understand that if I don't go down to the water, it's not going to split for them and not for their kids and not for their grandchildren. And I once said, I had this idea, our grandparents lived, on the ground floor. Our parents lived in the 4th. We live in the 7th, and our children, Hashamayim hu gvul. Heaven is the gvul, is the border. This is what they understand. If this doesn't happen, I feel bad for their children and grandchildren. Where are they going to live? What are they going to do? So on one hand, they're excited that it's happening. They want to hear more and more success. They want to hear more families moving into. They want to hear those first 10, 20, 30, 100, the first yeshuv, the second, the third, the fourth being built up. So it becomes a movement. It becomes a way of life. We have to remember that 100, when the Talmidei Agra came up there to Israel, and Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, in the beginning, they built up what we call yeshuvim. They build up, today we call them neighborhoods. They built up Mea Sharim, they built up Beit Yisrael, they built up Maskeret Batya. There was a time, I will share this story, not too many people know it, in Maskeret Batya in the north, it was all religious. And sadly, we're talking back in the days, there was a disease, and the Arabs were...
How long ago?
150 years plus.
Prior to the state of Israel.
Prior to the state of Israel. And their parents from Europe were sending them letters. These were richer people. They had houses, villas, brick store houses. They said, come home, send the kids home because you're dying. So they went to make a vote in the Beit Knesset. and I guess they had the women's vote. And one of the women said, for 2,000, she got up to speak. She went to the Sefer Torah. She went to the Arna Kodesh, and she said, for 2,000 years, this land waited for us to return here. Waited to get our tefillas, to get our little kids to say, to read the Aleph Beis, to hear the Torah Tinaika Shel Beis Ravan. They waited for this, and we're gonna leave now. She said, I am not leaving no matter what. One after another, weeping. The women went one after, and they said, we're not leaving. And it got the men to stay, and the place overcame their struggles. And this is exactly what we have to do. We have struggles here. It's not easy in the beginning. Everything is much harder than, you pay the contractor and and even over there, it's hard. I know from people that move into apartments and there's issues and there's leaking and there's this. But it's, in the end of the day, this land was waiting for the Jews to return. This hill and so many other hills are waiting for the tzibur to return. And this is why we're going to return.
So what's the role of October 7th in your decision to come out here? We're at war right now, and it's a serious war. It's an existential war. You came out here, 4 months after?
We actually have been working on this for more than 2 years. There were several places we were looking at. Each one was didn't work out exactly for certain reasons, each one a different reason. And we came in the summer. And the first couple from remote in Yerushalayim moved in here, thinking Erev Sukkot, built his sukkah, put up his mezuzah. And then came the war that came. So we had a decision. Are we going to say it's dangerous? Are we going to stop? Everybody is going. Or the opposite? Are we going to put full gas on the pedal and start to work even stronger and harder to make this happen? We understand that Hashem sent a signal to us. First of all, nowhere is safe. The only one that's safe is the one that believes in Hashem. We can't decide what's going to be left or right, but we have to do what we have to do. And this made us even more emphatic, and it made us more come out here and B'ezrat Hashem.
So militarily speaking, anywhere there's no citizens, you're not going to hold on to that border too quickly, too long. And obviously, living out here is a necessity if Israel wants to hold on to this land, which clearly it does, especially after October 7th. So you're saying after October 7th, existential war, this was all in the planning, and you're the Nachshon, Mamish Ad HaNafesh. You're in the Nachshon, and you said, we're still going for it. It's not like you moved out before, and it's like, do we stay? You moved out here after, even though there's great danger. What would you say, and I think we'll close with this, what would you say to all the other Meshuganas out there that are considering such a move, that are inspired by what you're doing? What message would you send to them?
I will tell, first of all, that the Jews that came to Eretz Yisrael, Talmidei Agra 200 years ago, they were a lot more Meshuggah. A year traveling, they were robbed on the way, the boats and this, and then when they got here, there were families that lost everything. I read the stories of what they went through, and I said, what are we doing? We're not Nachshon. We're not doing anything special. In the end of the day, all I'm doing is gaining. I'm gaining a beautiful house for a fraction of what anybody could even think of. I'm gaining a beautiful view. I'm gaining a community, people that have their heads put on their bodies in the right way. They understand what's important and what's not important. They understand that all the shtuyot that we have, all these interferences they have in the city and all these things. Here, you sit here. It's about, you have the Torah, you have nothing, you have the tefillas, you have the building up the land, and this is where a person can get the most yiras shamayim. And I understand that in the future, maybe in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it will be the elite of the elite that will be able to come here. Not everybody will be able to come here. So now is your chance to get in early, because in 20 years, I don't know if I'll be allowed in here.
Okay, well, we look forward, hopefully, being here in 20 years. I'm saying me being alive. You're along in age too, I think. But
all right. I'm speaking more about.
Hopefully, we'll be here and we'll do a sequel.
Hashem, we'll have many more families. We'll show the Beit Midrash, the learning,
and who knows? Maybe we'll be your neighbor at that time.
Yeah.
Well, Ephraim,
thank you so much for coming down here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for hosting.
To listen to the full podcast or watch Tribe's new docuseries, The Pioneers, and other untold stories about Israel, you can find us at @TribeJournal on most social media platforms or log on to tribejournal.org. Don't forget to subscribe and start receiving content that you can trust delivered directly to your inbox. Discover an Israel that the media and algorithms do not want you to see. Thanks for watching.